Senator, thank you for your time here, and good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
I would say Happy New Year. You probably don't see it that way, but nonetheless, Happy New Year and welcome to 2019. Here's the meme that went out on Instagram at 5 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. The wall is coming. In the font of the Game of Thrones from HBO. Can both sides find a way to declare victory, if not today, in a couple of weeks?
Well, you know, I think there is a compromise. When you think about it, the Democrats last year, almost every one of them in the Senate voted for $25 billion for a wall. Now the president's only asking for $5 billion. Now the Democrats' new position is 0. So I figure you take their position 0, the president's position 5, and split the difference, you know, $2.5 billion. And I think that would probably be adequate to have a deal where both sides can say, you know, they didn't give the president what he wanted, but the president didn't cave in and get nothing. And I think he does have leverage because this is only a portion of the government that's not open. So I think there is a very good chance he could get what he wants. But I think it's illustrative to see what the Democrats have offered as their counter. In their counter, they're increasing foreign aid to other countries to over $50 billion. There's a $12 billion increase in foreign aid. Many of these countries hate us and burn our flag. The president campaigned on America first, so he wants to spend that $5 billion here at home. And I think the Democrats are going to have a lot of explaining as to why they won't spend any money at home on security, but they're willing to send it to foreign countries, many of whom burn our flag and chant death to America.
We watched the swearing in yesterday. The hand over the gavel, I guess, is the proper way to phrase it. How do you see this relationship between President Trump and Nancy Pelosi? How does this develop over the next 2 years? What are we in for?
You know, I think the president is a deal maker, and I think he will sit down with the other side and try to figure out how to split the difference. But I do think also that the American people are going to realize how important it is to have a Republican president and a Republican Senate, because what we're going to have to do is protect the country from these radical progressives, socialists in the Democrat Party who want to raise taxes again on corporations, which makes us uncompetitive with the world. They want to raise individual taxes, and they really want the government to own everything. They want the government involved in every sector of the economy. They're just getting started. So we're going to be very, very lucky that the Republican Senate and the Republican president will stop, you know, the country from slipping and sliding towards socialism.
Well, in the meantime, you've got, the call by some on the left for impeachment already. Some articles were filed yesterday. I don't know where they go. Nancy Pelosi has said, let's hang on and see what Bob Mueller has or does not have ultimately in the end. Then you got the salty language from last night that went around. That's getting a lot of headlines today, and people are already questioning yet again the drain of civility in Washington, D.C. How do people in Bowling Green, Kentucky see this?
You know, I think people do want us to work together. You know, we're sort of evenly split in Kentucky. We still have more registered Democrats than Republicans. They would like to see us work together. From a personal point of view, I don't like to hear that kind of incivility in language because I think it encourages violence. You know, I've been the victim of violence. I was at the ball game when Steve Scalise was shot, and I was 10 feet from another young staffer who was shot. And so, you know, I'm not real excited about the language getting so hyperbolic that encourages people to violence. There are violent people who live among us, and they don't need encouragement. And so I would ask this Congresswoman to tone it down and really see if she could talk about policies rather than calling the president names. I mean, we have enough crazy people in our country that would put the president's life or any of our lives at risk that we don't need that kind of language.
I want to get you on one more topic here. We had Newt Gingrich on about 2 hours ago during our 9 o'clock hour. And he wrote a piece at FoxNews.com about Mitt Romney's comments at the Washington Post. Here's the former speaker and how he characterizes Mitt Romney's strategy.
It's a way to make noise, but it actually isolates Mitt and puts him in a much narrower, smaller group. Mitt's very smart. He's been a governor. He's been a very successful businessman. He could come in there and have 6 or 8 or 9 really positive ideas. He could make a real contribution. But to posture as the anti-Trump, I think is a really narrow career path, and I just think my guess is he has some advisors who thought it was clever.
Just to remind our viewers, on the 2nd of January, 2 days ago, here was the headline, Washington Post, how a president shapes the public character. He agreed with a lot of the policy on behalf of the president, doesn't like him personally, and that was pretty clear. And you came out and kind of hammered Romney the other day.
Well, I just don't think it's productive to call the president dishonest. I think it was really a mistake, and there's a lot of blowback now coming from it. But I'm willing to get on with things. If the senator from Utah wants to work on, border funding, or wants to work on, foreign policy and different issues of the day, I think he can get beyond this. I think it was a misstep, and it will hurt his relations with the president. But I think really we ought to talk about policy. Look, I have disagreements with the president all the time, but we have warm personal relationships, and he knows that sometimes I'll disagree with him, but he also knows that I'll defend him when I think it's partisan. And I think attacks on his character are simply partisan. They are something the Democrats buy into, and it's not useful for Republicans to play into Democrat hands on these personal attacks.
Does this affect your relationship with your new colleague? Does it affect the relationship of other Republican senators in working with him?
I hope not. But, my reason for being very vocal is I want to defend the president because I want to defend our agenda. And I think our agenda is damaged. Tax cuts, less regulation, Supreme Court picks. All that's damaged if you damage the person who's helped bring that about, and that's the president and Republicans in Congress. So I just want to get beyond this, and I think we can get beyond this. And I hope we can still have good relations, because I didn't mean my response to Romney to be personal either. I think the response is that let's get away from character attacks and let's get back to policy.
Thank you, Senator, for your time. Welcome to 2019. Rand Paul. Thanks.
Thank you.